Attack on Titan is cinema. Being a slave to capitalism, I got a part-time job while I was in school. So my schedule was basically full from 9 to 7, which now being a full-grown ass man sounds like glory. The point is, at that time I was getting heavy into anime, so my spare time was mainly watching whatever I can find just to dump it after 2 to 3 episodes, until a friend from school had the generosity to stop me and led me to the right path. He recommended me an anime called進撃の巨人. He started to tell me that the plot was basically about giant people eating emotionally unstable teenagers, and I said, stop it right there. I just took my backpack and left. There was nothing else I needed to know. So I returned from school, rushed to the TV, and played the first episode. The skinless giant dude kicked a wall, sent flying every background character to the demise, naked giant people started to chase mini people, and Eren's mom picked up. I was hooked! Attack on Titan has to be one of the greatest visual media of this generation, right beside Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Boku no Pico. The plot writing, the music, the characters, the foreshadowing, the animation. So today I'm gonna tell you why Attack on Titan dominated the anime scene for the last decade. The humans have been living surrounded by walls for over 100 years after some huge naked human-like creatures called Titans appear out of nowhere. We're introduced to Eren, our protagonist, being annoyed that people seem not to necessarily care too much about these Titans or the threat they represent, and this is something very interesting. The people inside the walls might know in concept that they are dangerous, but most of them haven't seen a single one in their entire life, so they know the danger in concept but not in experience. That's why the phrase, "that day humanity remembered the terror of being ruled by them," takes a powerful meaning right when the colossal titan appears. I'm gonna rail a little bit, but I gotta say, when this huge guy came into the picture, I thought that he was going to be like one of the final bosses of the series, and somehow it is, but not in the way I thought. But in the end, I'm glad that is not the route they took in the story. After the whole chaos of breaking the wall and the Titans getting in, we learn why these creatures represent a threat for humanity. And after Eren's mom is Chop Chop, loses his home, and another mysterious Titan breaks another entry, Eren finds motivation in hate. He swears that he will kill every single one of the Titans. After our prologue, we have settled into a slow rhythm, and it gives you these first hints of your typical shonen, or main trio, a protagonist aspiring to be the best with the initial struggle, antagonistic teacher, a direct rival, and of course, a bunch of side characters who are gonna be here for the ride as classmates. To my surprise, they just give us a hint of how the ODM gear works, a quick info dump on the rest of the characters, and a spear up of the training. We are later told that the cadets must choose out of the three options: the garrison, the military police, and finally we have the survey corps. We are introduced to the survey corps at the beginning of the series very quickly before we jump to Eren. They have this epic music blasting and braveness. Funny thing is that the next time we see them is in shame and dark eyes. So the contrast between one scene and the other scene is pretty big. The parents of the scouts give us two main notes of information about Eren. One, Eren's nature of discovering, and two, the cruelty of this war. The scene where Shadis tries to comfort the mother of a former comrade is very important to make the viewer know the reality where our characters live. He tries to lie at first, but the reality is so strong that he cannot deny it. With all this in mind, despite Eren making it to the top 10, he decides to go to the scouts, but now with another motive: vengeance. After 5 years of the first attack, the Colossal Titan makes an appearance once again, and our characters now have another type of confidence. Like I said before, seems like your basic structure: you give the main protagonist a quirky motive for joining the good guys, then you give him the real backstory what makes the audience empathize with him, introduce the side characters who will make him company in the hero's journey, give him a cool montage, and then you kill him. Wait. Quirky motive, blah 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 blah, real backstory, side character for the hero's journey, and then you kill him. Okay, seems about right. I have to confess something about this part really quick. Having to work and then going out to school and arriving late at night has some effects on you. I started to binge watch this series at 9 p.m. and I tried to stay awake because the two first episodes were such a bangers that I really wanted to know where this story goes. But the next two episodes were such a slow pace that my brain started to shut down. So when we finally arrived at this part, at the end, literally I was fully asleep. You can imagine my surprise when I woke up at the ending playing and decided to play the next episode. Basically, I realized that Eren was dead in the recap of the next episode. Yeah, I had to return to the last episode to watch what happened, but it was not the same impact. And I must be honest, I didn't believe that Eren was dead, but I had to give the benefit of the doubt to Isayama. He was settling the tone of the story, so yeah, who knows, maybe he was dead. Still, the entire scene was important to the story. We realized as spectators that barely anything has changed in the last 5 years. The sorrow keeps going until something unexpected happens. A titan starts to beat another titan. This is confusing for the characters and for ourselves. I remember that right before this chapter, I told a friend at school that it would be kind of cool for the story if a human could transform into a titan, but she literally kept quiet and gave me this look. I didn't need to know anything more. So when this titan appeared out of the blue, my mind immediately said Eren, which now I know it doesn't appear to be that big of a revelation. Anyways, our characters use this titan to their advantage, and when the coast is kind of clear, the titan is revealed to be Eren. We see through some flashbacks and messy information, but we can decipher that Eren's dad, Grisha Jaeger, gave him this power. It can only be speculated that maybe Grisha is doing an experiment or something like that, and we know at this point that he's missing. Oh, and let's remember that somehow Eren already has the key from the basement since episode 2. Not quite confirmed, but it's the only information we got. And yeah, of course the humans are scared after seeing this. They are convinced by pixies to use the power to solve the issue with the wall and then give Eren a formal trial. With this new power, Eren tries to help the squad, but oh surprise, he cannot control it at will. After some pep talk with Armin, he comes to his senses and does help to cover the new hole, giving to humanity a very small win for the first time in ever. I gotta say that Eren's Titan walking with a huge stone on his shoulders is undoubtedly one of the most iconic scenes in the entire series. When you already watched the totality of the series, you can see little Easter eggs here and there foreshadowing what is coming next. The foreshadowing in this series is impeccable, and I dare to say that it's the best in whatever media you tell me. Not that big of a plot, not that big of a reveals. This first part leaves us with two big questions, but important for the development of the rest of the series. Why Eren can turn into a titan? Is there any more of them out there? When are we gonna get to the basement? Actually, that's 3 questions, but the last one is gonna be a permanent one for at least 2 seasons more. And it's funny to me how in the beginning of the series we have a lot of anime tropes and comedic relief. Those of you who already watched the series knows that this kind of thing gets lost as the story progresses. And it makes sense. As the reveals keeps going and the tone of the series becomes more political and serious, these tropes are washed away unless we must go on flashbacks. So it's an interesting contrast and like a reflection of Eren's change of personality through the seasons. And with tropes, I'm not only pointing out the comedic gigs, I'm pointing out the plain background characters with very strong stereotypes to be identified easily. The thing is, they are gonna be fleshed out later on the story. Except for Rico. I don't know what the fuck happened to her. The first part of the series is a good setup, almost perfect I will say, and I don't want to go without pointing out the elephant in the room, Marco's death. In this rewatch, I realized that Marco has way less screen time than I remember, and this is one of those characters that seems pointless alive, but it's one of those that I like to call triggering characters. He has this feeling of good boy all around him, trying to motivate and mediate, but the story needs him to die for other characters to grow. Even us as viewers, we see Marcus dead at the same time as John, out of the blue and out of the camera when few minutes ago he was alive and well, if we can say that in this scenario. It gives us that understanding of, yeah, this is a cruel world and death is sudden. As viewers, we have received the final note of the tone of the series. It's also a catalyst for Jan to choose later the Scout Division and gives him this new drive to his character. And we don't supposed to know this yet, but it's also a catalyst for Annie, Reiner, and Bertuna. Fly high, my Hofkin. Anyways, I would love to keep yapping, but I will save my conclusion for the next part of the season, which you can click right now here, but if you're too early, you can't. Bye.